Okay, just wanted to give a quick overview of what exactly is happening in cellular respiration. Okay, cellular respiration has basically three different steps. The first step, number one, is glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis, as you know, is the breakdown of a glucose molecule. Okay, so you have the breakdown of a glucose molecule, which at this point is what contains all the energy. Okay, if you remember from photosynthesis is the repackaging of photons from the sun into a glucose or sugar molecule. Well, now we see that glucose molecule again in cellular respiration, but this time instead of it being a catabolic process, I'm sorry, an anabolic process, it's a catabolic process, which is basically the breakdown of this molecule. So we're breaking down glucose so that we can repackage the energy that's stored in that molecule and this sugar. We want to repackage this energy into something that we can use. Okay, so glucose is broken down, its electrons are stripped, and they're taken up by NADPH. Okay, if you remember that molecule in photosynthesis, we had NADPH. Well, in cellular respiration, it's NADH. These electrons are then transferred over to the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. Now, not all of the energy from glucose has been taken away. There's still quite a bit of energy stored in this glucose molecule. And so the rest of the energy is stored in a pyruvate molecule. Pyruvate goes inside of the mitochondria. So it should be noted that this glycolysis occurs in the cytosol, okay, in the cytoplasm of the cell. So pyruvate is now been made from glucose, and it goes inside of the mitochondria. Pyruvate then goes through a cycle called the citric cycle, okay, or also the Krebs cycle, okay, and it goes through this process of breaking up and rearranging the carbon molecules and creating ATP. Oh, and I should also mention that glycolysis also produces ATP, in exactly 2 ATP. Now, I also want to state that I'm later going to make videos giving in detail what is happening in each one of these stages. Okay, so right now this video is just an overview of what is happening in cellular respiration. Okay, so again, glycolysis, pyruvate into citric acid cycle, the Krebs cycle. Okay, Krebs cycle rearranges those atoms, those carbon atoms. It produces water, carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and some ATP. But these ATP that are produced by glycolysis and the Krebs cycle are not very many. Okay, so along with in this rearrangement here, in this rearrangement of atoms of pyruvate, let me pick a different color here so we can see maybe a little bit more clearly. In the rearrangement of these molecules, more electrons are stripped away and added to a molecule, another carrier called NADH, which is the same as the one we used over here, and FADH2. Okay, so these electrons are transferred to these molecules. So the energy again is being stripped away in the Krebs cycle. It's being stripped away, stored in NADH and FADH, and those electrons are then going to be transferred over to the ETC of the Krebs cycle, also called oxidative phosphorylation. And the reason why, one of the reasons why it's called oxidative phosphorylation is because it requires oxygen in order to phosphorylize ADP and turn it into ATP. Okay, so if you remember, we're trying to make ATP so that the muscles and the brain and all the normal body functions can use this energy. Okay, so again, oxidative phosphorylation, because it requires oxygen. That's why we need to breathe oxygen to live. Okay, without oxygen, we're not very efficient. We don't make enough energy to do our daily things. Okay, so these electrons, these stored electrons, go into the ETC, okay, the electron transport chain, and a process called chemiosmosis. Okay, now again, we are going to talk about this in great detail later on. So chemiosmosis is the process that creates roughly 36 to 38 ATP. Okay, so think about this. We're producing 2 ATP, we're producing a few ATP here, and then here we're producing the majority of our ATP. Chemiosmosis, let me change the color. Chemiosmosis is responsible for about 90% of ATP production. Okay? 90%. So that just goes to show how important chemiosmosis is. Okay? So this is, again, has been a large-scale overview of cellular respiration. So just one more time, let me change the color to green so you can see our steps. Step number 1, glycolysis. Step number 2, citric acid cycle. Step number 3, oxidative phosphorylation and chemiosmosis, which again is responsible for 90% of ATP production. Okay? Overview of cellular respiration.